So I want you to picture a very specific scene. You've just landed at Incheon International Airport in South Korea.
Right.
You're a little groggy. You're waiting there at the arrivals terminal, you know, watching those sliding doors open and close. You see the usual stream of tourists.
Stretching their legs, looking for their ride.
Exactly.
Yeah.
But then, if you look a little closer, you start to notice the luggage.
The luggage is always the telltale sign.
Right. You see dozens of travelers wheeling out these, massive hard-shell suitcases. We're talking 28-inch behemoths.
But they're so light.
They're handling them like they're filled with feathers, just effortlessly light.
Because they are. If you were to, run those bags through an X-ray, you'd find a huge number of them are completely 100% empty.
Which, in almost any other context, looks incredibly suspicious.
It does. It looks like the start of some kind of reverse smuggling operation.
Yeah.
But it's actually a very specific economic behavior. These travelers are what people in the industry call beauty pilgrims. They aren't bringing clothes, they're bringing cargo space.
Just empty voids in their luggage, specifically to fill them with Korean cosmetics.
That's the whole mission.
That is such a bold move. I get nervous traveling without a spare jacket, let alone a totally empty suitcase.
Well, it's a calculated risk. There's this famous anecdote about a tourist on her first visit who bought so much stuff. She was physically overwhelmed by the sheer volume of toners and sheet masks that she couldn't carry it all home.
No way.
Yeah, she had to leave some of it behind in her hotel room. So now the market's adapted. People bring the empty bag because they know they're going to fill every last cubic inch.
A skin pilgrimage. But look, we aren't doing a deep dive today just to talk about shopping habits.
Or luggage logistics.
Right. We want to answer a much bigger question. How did a small country in the Far East, with, very little in the way of natural resources, manage to crown itself the world's beauty capital?
It's a huge question. And the answer is, I think, going to surprise a lot of people. It's not just about good marketing or cute packaging.
It's deeper than that.
So much deeper. It's a story of, 110 years of struggle, a completely radical revolution in manufacturing, what we call the relay race model, and a future that looks less like a makeup counter and more like a science fiction movie.
With AI and robots.
With AI and robots.
Okay, so let's unpack this. I want to start with the philosophy, with the product itself.
Yeah.
Because before we get to the robots, we have to understand what is actually going inside those suitcases.
Right. What's the core idea?
And if you look at the typical K-beauty routine, it is, intense feels like an understatement.
And intense is a good word. Exhaustive might be another.
I was reading this account from a KBS weathercaster, and she was describing her morning prep. For most of us, maybe we wash our face, put on some moisturizer, maybe sunscreen if we're feeling responsible, and we go.
Yeah, that's the standard maintenance mindset. You're just trying not to look tired.
Exactly.
Yeah.
But she describes doing 6 or 7 steps of just basic skincare before she even thinks about makeup.
6 or 7.
She wakes up, washes her face, and then it's ampoules, serums, pore tightening, soothing creams. It honestly sounds like a chemistry experiment.
It is a chemistry experiment. And that routine, it really highlights the fundamental split between the Western approach and the Korean approach to beauty.
Okay, so let's drill down on that. Is it just about volume? Is the philosophy just more is better?
No, not at all. It's about the objective. According to makeup artist Lee Jin-soo, it really comes down to coverage versus texture.
Okay.
So if you think about the traditional Western style like Hollywood glamour or high fashion, it's architectural, it's structural.
Mm-hmm.
You use heavy foundation to cover imperfections. You use contouring to change the actual perceived shape of the face. You use highlighters to build new bone structure.
You're essentially painting a new reality on top of the canvas, hiding the original surface.
Exactly. You are creating a look on top of the face. The Korean style is all about transparency. Even though they're layering on 7 different products, the goal is for it to look like you're not wearing anything at all. Right. They want to preserve the skin texture, even the grain of the eyebrows. It's about catching natural light, not creating artificial shadows.
This is the whole glass skin concept we keep hearing about.
Glass skin, exactly. A surface so smooth and hydrated and translucent that it just reflects light like a pane of glass.
Which sounds impossible for, 99% of people. But I guess that's why tourists are lining up at those diagnostic centers you mentioned.
That's the next level of this pilgrimage. They go to clinics where their skin sensitivity is measured on a scale of 1 to 10.
1 to 10.
Yeah, 1 being strong, 10 being extremely weak or sensitive. And based on that hard data, they mix products for you right there on site. It's a custom prescription.
So you walk out with a home care regimen tailored to your specific pH balance. That's a long way from just, picking a lipstick because the cap looked pretty.
It is. But this is where we need to pivot, because we know what they're buying. Now we have to talk about how all these thousands of products even exist.
Because common sense would say if you have thousands of brands, you need thousands of factories.
And that is where common sense is totally wrong. The reason K-beauty exploded isn't because they built more factories, it's because they broke the traditional business model. They invented the relay race.
Okay, relay race. You mentioned this. How is this different from how, say, a giant French house operates?
Well, to understand the innovation, you have to understand the old way. Think about the big traditional beauty giants, the French or American heritage brands. They operate like marathon runners.
Meaning they run the whole race by themselves.
Precisely. They run the full 42 kilometers completely solo. They farm their own ingredients. They have their own huge R&D labs. They own the factories. They do the marketing, the distribution.
Which gives them total quality control, I'm sure. But it must make them incredibly heavy.
Heavy and slow. It takes a long time to turn a cruise ship. Now, contrast that with the K-beauty model, the relay race. Let's say you, listening, want to start a beauty brand tomorrow. In the West, you'd need millions for a lab and a factory.
Yep.
In Korea, you just need a concept. You run the first leg of the race, the planning, and then you pass the baton.
You pass it to a manufacturer.
You pass it to a very specialized company called an ODM, an original design manufacturer. And this is a really crucial distinction from just outsourcing.
So it's not an OEM.
No, an OEM just builds what you tell them to. An ODM handles the R&D, the formulation, the testing, the production. They are the scientists.
So if I have a cool idea for a green tea night cream, I don't need to know how to mix chemicals. I just go to the ODM and they can basically hand me the finished product.
Essentially, yes. You bring the brand identity, they bring the science. And these aren't small shops. The top 2 ODM companies in Korea are actually ranked #1 and #2 in the world.
Wait, #1 and 2 in the world? Bigger than the manufacturers for the big Western brands.
In terms of ODM market share, yeah. And here's a stat that it will blow your mind. These Korean ODMs produce 1 out of every 4 cosmetic products in the world.
1 out of 4. So wait, hold on. If I walk into a high-end department store in New York and I buy a fancy Western brand, it might have actually come from a Korean factory.
There's a very, very high probability, yes. Major global brands, L'Oreal, Estee Lauder, even Chanel, they're all clients of these Korean ODMs.
That is just wild. That completely changes the map of the industry. It's not West versus East anymore. It's more like everyone using the East's engine.
Exactly. And this explains the variety. If you don't need a factory to start a brand, the barrier to entry just collapses. Anyone with a good idea or a big Instagram following can get in the game.
It creates this massive diversity of indie brands.
It does.
But is it just about volume? Or is there a speed advantage? Because usually outsourcing can slow things down.
In this case, it's the opposite. The ODMs are specialists, so they are incredibly fast. There's this great anecdote about a U.S. client visiting a Korean lab. They're testing a formula, and the client says, okay, I like this, but can we change this ingredient's concentration from 10% to 20%?
And in a normal U.S. setup, that's a change order. That's paperwork. That's weeks of delays.
Weeks, maybe months of back and forth emails, new samples, shipping. In this Korean lab, the researchers just went to the back, reformulated, and brought it out on the spot immediately.
Wow.
The client was just shocked.
That agility is a weapon. It's like fast fashion for cosmetics, fast beauty.
That's it, precisely. In the U.S., manufacturing takes forever to catch up to a trend. In Korea, if a customer wants something in 2 months, it happens. That feedback loop is almost instantaneous.
So we have the glass skin philosophy and we have the relay race engine.
Right.
I want to step back for a second. It feels like K-beauty just exploded onto the scene in the last decade or so.
With social media, yeah.
But you mentioned earlier this has been, 110 years in the making?
It was not an overnight success. We see the flower blooming now, but the roots go back a full century. And it's a century of grit. The first government-approved cosmetic in Korea was called Park Gabun.
Parkabun? That was it?
A face powder, launched in the early 1900s, and it was a massive hit. It sold 10,000 packs a day.
That's huge for that era.
It was, but
Yeah.
it was a different time with very different standards. It contained lead.
Oof. Lead powder. That's definitely not glass skin. That's more like poison skin.
It reflects the lack of safety standards then, for sure, but it shows the demand was there. But the real turning point, the moment that I think defined the soul of this industry, was the Korean War.
That seems so counterintuitive. I mean,
Right.
usually war destroys luxury industries. People are worried about food and shelter, not moisturizer.
It's about the psychology of survival. You have
Right.
to imagine the country is in ruins, infrastructure is gone, poverty is everywhere, and yet people were still buying pomade and cream. There's this profound insight from sociologists looking back at that time. Grooming one's appearance became a symbol of the will to live.
That's powerful. It's not about vanity at that point. It's a refusal to let the chaos take your dignity.
Exactly. It was a way to maintain your humanity. In 1947, a product called Lucky Cream launched, and get this, they used the Hollywood star Deanna Durbin in their marketing.
In 1947, Korea. That's ambitious.
People were desperate for a touch of glamour, and that demand drove innovation. By the 1960s, they were already introducing multi-step foundation techniques. Then in the 90s, they invented twin cake.
To solve the powder flying everywhere problem.
All right. And then the big one, the air cushion.
The air cushion.
Oh,
That's
yeah.
the liquid foundation in the little sponge compact, right? I feel like
Yeah.
every major brand has one now.
They do now. But it was a Korean invention that completely changed how people applied makeup globally. Before that, touching up liquid foundation on the go was just a mess. The air cushion made it easy, hygienic, and gave that dewy look.
So we have innovation born from hardship, and we have the manufacturing speed. But how do they actually sell this to the world? Because the old model was the Amor counselors,
Right.
the door-to-door sales ladies.
Right, the Avon Lady model. That's not the growth engine anymore. Now it's about digital dominance and these select shops like Olive Young.
Olive Young is basically everywhere in Korea, right?
Hmm.
Like a Sephora meets a drugstore on every single corner.
And think of it as an incubator. It's a retail chain, yeah, but it acts as this brutal testing ground for thousands of small new brands. If you can survive on those shelves, you've got proof of concept to go global.
And going global today means going online. I saw this case study about an Amazon Rising Star documentary.
This is a perfect example of the scale we're talking about. A small Korean brand joined a special 4-day sales event on Amazon. They set a sales target of $10 million.
Which, for a small brand in 4 days, that sounds incredibly optimistic, maybe even delusional.
It does. But during that 4-day event, they sold 14 billion Korean won worth of product.
14 billion won. That's, doing the rough math, that's pretty much hitting that $10 million mark in 4 days.
It's staggering volume. Amazon's K-beauty sales grew 70% in 2023. It is exploding. But here's the key. The driver isn't just the product. It's the content.
The K-pop connection, the K-drama connection. You can't separate the lipstick from the show.
You can't. It's a full-on cultural export. When you see a K-pop star like Rosé or an actor in a drama with that perfect skin, you want the product that creates that look.
It's aspirational.
Totally. And the smart brands are realizing that language is the next frontier. They're making tutorials in Spanish for Latin America, specific content for the Middle East. They're localizing the K-beauty dream.
So everything seems to be going perfectly. Factories, history, distribution, pop culture hype. But this is usually the part of the deep dive where you tell me about the storm clouds on the horizon.
There are always storm clouds, and ironically, the biggest threat comes from the very system that made them so successful.
A relay race model?
Exactly. Remember how we said the ODM model lowers the barrier to entry? That anyone can go to a Korean factory and make a world-class product.
Yeah.
Well, anyone includes your competitors, specifically Chinese companies.
Ah, the China beauty threat.
The big chew, as they're called. These companies are smart. They are using the exact same Korean ODM factories, so the quality is identical, but they have massive capital, and they own platforms like TikTok.
It's a terrifying dynamic for Korea. They built the highway, and now a much bigger truck is driving on it.
They're moving from fast followers to serious threats very quickly. And this highlights the biggest weakness in K-beauty's armor. They have amazing masstige products, mass prestige, affordable luxury. But what do they lack?
They don't have the true heritage brands. There's no Korean Chanel or Dior.
Exactly. They don't have that 100-year-old story that justifies a $500 price tag. And you can't just invent that history overnight. A competitor can copy a formula, but they can't copy a century of legacy.
So how do they fix that? If you can't invent history, what's the move?
You have to dig deep, literally. There's this fascinating research happening right now in tea fields. Companies are breeding specific colors of tea leaves, red tea, white tea, and using unused parts of the plants to create proprietary ingredients.
So they're trying to create ingredients that you can't just order from a catalog.
Exactly. It's a pivot back to the marathon model in a way. If you have a proprietary ingredient from a tea field you own, a competitor can't copy that at an ODM factory. That's how you build a real legacy. They have to move from being a manufacturing powerhouse to a true brand powerhouse.
That's a huge transition. It's changing the DNA of the industry all over again.
It is, but they've done it before. I mean, they went from lead powder to air cushions to AI robots.
Speaking of robots, we kind of glossed over this trend called home medicines.
Home medicines. It's a mix of medicine and maintenance. It's the future. We're talking about beauty devices that use AI to diagnose your personal color sebum.
What about a personal stylist?
Basically, yeah. It will tell you if you're a neutral cool tone or a warm autumn, and then dispense the right product. There's a company specializing in this that reached the #1 market cap in its sector within a year and a half of listing.
Wow.
So the tech is there. The question is, can they combine that tech with the soul of a luxury brand?
It has been quite a ride. We've gone from empty suitcases at an airport to lead powder, through the ruins of war, to a global logistics network fueled by Amazon and K-pop, and now we're looking at AI robots and proprietary tea leaves.
It just shows that beauty is never just about vanity. It's economics, it's technology, it's culture.
So what's the one big thought we should walk away with here?
I think it leaves us with a really critical question for the next decade. K-beauty won the last 10 years by being faster and more efficient, by mastering that relay race. But now that competitors have the map and are running on the same track, speed just isn't enough anymore.
Right.
So the question is, can Korea stop just running fast and start building a legacy? Shifting from that factory mindset to a heritage mindset is a much, much higher hurdle, and that is the next chapter they have to write.
And that is a fascinating place to leave it. A huge thanks to the experts and sources who helped us piece this story together, and thank you for listening to this deep dive.
Keep questioning and keep learning.